The streets are talking. You are now listening to The Box Out, Tri-State area basketball talk at its best. And now your hosts, Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Let's get it.
The Box Out here on the One Podcast Network YouTube channel. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Joining me in just 2 minutes from Brooklyn, New York, will be Jason Cordner. I'm wearing my Met jersey. I know it's a basketball show. I get it. I understand it. But the Mets just beat the Yankees for the 4th time this year. So I'm going to rock my Met jersey today. That's just I'm very proud to be a Mets fan. It's the first time I get that in a while. Very proud to be a Mets fan. Let's go Mets. Or let's LFGM. If you know what that means, what's up? You know what's up. So we've been off for a couple of weeks. Obviously, it's the summer, so the news slowed down, and there's not a lot to talk about. So we took some time off, recharge our batteries. And, once you think there's nothing to talk about when it comes to basketball, the floodgates open and shit to talk about. And this is where we are now. We're in a situation where there's so much to talk about. We're going to get right to it. And we want to start with the WNBA. The summertime is usually when we talk a lot more WNBA than we normally talk during the NBA season. Unlike Stephen A. Smith on First Take, we've always talked about the WNBA. And Jason, we take great pride in the fact that we always talk WNBA on this show since we started. I believe 7 years ago. I think 7 years. And, over the time we've done this podcast, we kind of middling, I won't say homeless, but it always seems like WNBA is always kind of a step behind every other professional league in America. Be the NBA, NHL, the NFL, obviously, whether it be other smaller, the Arena Football League, if we remember when the Arena Football was really, really big, I think back in the early 2000s, they seem to have a more sustained, more popular run than the WNBA were having. So it seemed like the WNBA was always kind of a step behind every other league in American sports. That's up until recently. Now, obviously, the conversation to be was Angel Reese, it's Caitlin Clark. It's the influx of new players, and that's true, but you've kind of seen the popularity of the WNBA kind of move up bit by bit by bit, and it's kind of hit a crescendo this year with the additions of Reese and Clark and having the Aces and the Liberty, having teams like the Dallas Wings and the Connecticut Sun, and, you're going to these markets and you're getting owners like Mark Davis in Vegas who are investing money, Matt Ishbia, who just brought the Suns and the Mercury, just built a $100 million complex for the Mercury, their own practice facility for them. So you're starting to see the kind of tide turn. I compare it to kind of MLS and how the league is building. That brings us to this week's news that was reported last week. The WNBA received a $2.2 billion media rights deal, meaning for the next 11 years, starting, I think, next year, they're going to get $200 million per season to broadcast their games on ABC, ESPN, NBC, who's getting the NBA back. We'll talk about the NBA a little bit later. And on Amazon. Now, they're already on Amazon. A lot of Commissioner Cup games are on Amazon already. So they already have a relationship with Amazon. And obviously, you have the ION deal they have. And CBS Sports Network is also a broadcast partner for the league. So the $2.2 billion is just a starting point, because once they renegotiate with ION, once they renegotiate with CBS Sports Network, I think that 2.2 is going to go a lot higher. So if you think about it and look at it numbers wise, right? This year, I think they're getting $60 million for the season for their media rights on ABC, ESPN, ION, the Amazon deal, which was like the Commissioner's Cup games and the championship. And they had a few games on CBS Sports Network. work. So it wasn't a $60 million is good for a league. You're making money. Obviously, WNBA has been losing money according to the NBA. Now we have to take that at face value because the NBA is not exactly transparent, as we'll get to in a second. $200 million per year for 11 seasons, $2.2 billion, a deal that might actually go up to $3 billion once you negotiate with the other entities and any new broadcast partners. I'm always curious about the business of sports and how it works. And I feel like you made. And it almost seems like the W was lowballed just a little bit. It seemed as if so bad enough they're kind of packaged in with the NBA. So when the NBA negotiates their media rights, they automatically bring in the WNBA and say, oh, by the way, with the WNBA, let's load them into our media rights deal. And they get their deal, we get our deal, but really the WNBA is a package deal with the rest of the NBA. So bad enough they're kind of not in the half of the WNBA, which I think is bullshit. I think the 2.2 billion number is a little light considering where women's basketball, women's sports in general, but I'm kind of focusing the conversation on women's basketball. Where women's basketball is right now, and the popularity of women's basketball, and it's only get better when you have a Paige Beckers coming to the league next year, when Juju Watkins comes in. The popularity of women's basketball, I think you can see major growth going forward 3-4 years from now. And they could renegotiate the deal and kind of good faith look at the deal in, I think, 3 or 4 years. So this is not going to be the last deal they make. This is not going to be the end game. This is not going to be it for WNBA. They're going to look at this deal again and go, we could do better. But I think the 2.2 billion number, the 200 million per season, I think is light. Cheryl Miller said at the WNBA All-Star game. The WNBA union president said it as well. It seemed a little low. And I can't debate that. I think you have a league that just drew 3.4 million viewers for the All-Star game last Saturday. On a Saturday night in prime time, they drew 3.4 million. I don't think last year I said they can hit 2 or 3 million for their All-Star game last year. I think they hit like 850,000. I was like, damn. The record was 1.15. I think that was in 2004. I'll check that in a second. So 1.1 was the record for the WNBA All-Star game. They shattered that record with 3.44 million on Saturday. That right there, advertisers, the audience is big. A lot of the audience, WNBA, 18 to 34, which is that bright, that advertising spot that they want. Advertisers want that 18 to 34 demographic, or 18 to 49, but I say 18 to 34. You're getting young girls and their families watching these games. That's another demographic. You get tweens and their parents. You can sell them anything. And if Asia Wilson and Sabrina Ionescu is advertising it, you could sell it to those fans of those particular players, of the particular team, that particular market. So I'm happy to say that they got 2.2 billion, 200 million per year. I'm excited about it. I think it's a really big deal for the league. But I do think the NBA could have done better for them. I think the NBA could have been like, you can give us more, right? When we talk about the NBA media rights deal later on, we're going to talk about that money and how that's going to work out. And NBA is getting that bag with their media rights deal. Now it's time to give the WNBA their bag and give them the media rights deal that they deserve. Right now, it seems like it's not. I don't want to say it's not fair because $2.2 billion is a lot of damn money. Like, let's just keep it 100. It's a lot of money, but $200 million a year for a league that's popularity has been growing for 5-6 years exponentially and is only going to keep growing. You have an expansion team in San Francisco next year, and the year after you have an expansion team in Toronto. I know Portland's been mentioned as a possible location for another team. I want to say Charlotte was another market they were looking at. So the more the league expands, the more you have more players. You have, Juju Watkins can be playing for the expansion Toronto team. You already know Toronto's going to draw. Whenever the WNBA goes to Toronto, they sell out. I think San Francisco, the Golden State franchise, whose names I can't remember. I want to say the Valkyries. I might be wrong on that one, but they're going to go hard for their team when they get there. So I don't think it's a fact of can they keep this up. I think the question becomes not can the WNBA keep the popularity going. It is going to be how big could this get? Like, how much bigger could the WNBA get from this point forward? You've kind of been building and building and building, and now you're starting to hit that high note. And I don't think they're done yet. I think this is going to be a point where they're like, we're not done yet. And I think that's what the players are saying. That's what the owners are saying. The owners are the ones. Matt Ishbia just built a whole practice facility. The Chicago Sky ownership is going to build a $30 million practice facility for themselves. You know? Look at the Liberty and what Joe Tsai's done. He got fined for chartering flights for his team a couple years ago because like they should be having charter flights. It happens now for everybody, but Joe Tsai's like, come on, like what are we doing? The Vegas Aces pretty much rebranded as the Raiders with their black and silver. They got a brand new practice facility as well. So now these owners started to kick the money in, and that means that team valuation is going to go up. So when team valuations go up, that means people care about the franchises because they're worth some money now. Now, we're not talking $4 or $5 billion like Steve Ballmer paid for the Clippers or Matt Ishbia paid for the Suns and the Mercury, or at Alex Rodriguez kind of tried to buy the Timberwolves, even though I don't think he had the money. The valuations are a lot smaller, but from where they were 6, 7, 8 years ago to where they are now, you can make an argument that it's going to get bigger, right? And the more the public gets to know these players, and the more that the college game is popularized, and the fans are starting to kind of look at the players going into the WNBA and go, "Oh, I know her. I watched her play at UConn. I watched her play at Iowa. I watched her play with Louisiana Tech, or whatever the case may be." So, I think it's a reasonable explanation to think that it's going to keep growing, and that $2.2 billion is going to be a drop in the bucket. Sammy, what's going on? So you believe this will get to like the NBA in 15 to 20 years? I'm bullish on it. I don't know if it's going to get to the NBA level. I think you can see it get to NHL level, which I think in the United States, I won't say North America, even though they're going to have a team in Toronto soon. I think in the U.S., hockey can be third or fourth, depending on who you talk to. I think WNBA can get to where the NHL is, that's self-sustaining, and I think that's the issue. The NBA still kind of subsidize the WNBA, and the NBA is still paying some of the bills of the WNBA. The idea is to get the league to be self-sustaining and be on their own 2 feet. I think with this TV deal, they're getting closer to that point. I think if the deal was a little bigger than 2.2, then we're talking WNBA can do their own thing by themselves, and NBA can just write off all the losses they've had for the last 20 plus years. But I do kind of see them getting to that point where, and we have to be honest about the WNBA as well. Their season happens during the summer, right? It's not a full 82-game season. It's not year-long. It's not year-round. Player salaries are still not where they should be. The highest paid salary, I think, is Jewel Lloyd at $252 per year. So, we can't compare it completely to the NBA. We have to kind of take their salaries and go, okay, they're only playing 40 games, right? They're off for the next couple of weeks because of the Olympic break. So, to get to that point of the WNBA, it would take a whole lot. It'll have to take an 80-game season for them to get there. But I could definitely see them being summer viewing. And I know their commissioner was talking about, Kathy Imbert was talking about maybe having a 48-game season next year. That's a good start, too, because more games means more money. Look at the NFL trying to get the 18th game in for a season. Another game in the schedule, that's more money for the owners. Not so much the players in the NFL, the owners more so. But I can see that. Sammy, yes, they totally did pass and one. I know we talked about that documentary. The and one doc, the 30 for 30 is crazy. As I talked about before, they shattered their record for the All-Star Game, 3.44 million viewers on a Saturday night, which Nope. No one watches TV on a Saturday night, and you got 3.4 million people watching WNBA All-Star game. It was a good game. Team WNBA ended up winning. They defeated Team USA, which was Team USA's first tune-up for the Paris Olympics. They're all in Paris, so good luck to the U.S. women's basketball team. Last year's game, 850,000. This year, 3.4 million. So that just tells you that people care. And the argument is it Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, or is everyone else? I think Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese adds another layer to the league. I don't think the 3.4 million is all of them. By no means was it all of them. I do think they've added to it. People care about Caitlin Clark. People care about Angel Reese. But you still got Asia Wilson. You still got Breanna Stewart. You still got Sabrina Eskew. Arika Umugawe, she won the MVP of the game. She was lights out in the All-Star game. There's so many players in the league now that, back in the NBA, I would say late 80s, early 90s, it started to become, it was Jordan's league. Like Larry Bird was kind of on his way out. I know Magic was getting older and he ended up bowing out anyway. So by the time Magic kind of walked away, the league was Jordan. It was a one-man league. The NBA was Michael Jordan, not the Chicago Bulls, right? It was Michael Jordan. You're not seeing that in WNBA, and I think the NBA kind of got – the popularity never waned in the NBA, but it got boring. Like, it got kind of like, okay, Jordan, the Bulls going to win again. Okay, it's Jordan. You don't ever want to see that. And with the Aces being so dominant, you need a foil. The Liberty might be that foil this year, finally, hopefully, maybe. They might be that foil. You need a team to go up against the Aces. The Aces does not look unbeatable, right? They look completely beatable this year. And I think someone needs to step up and go, okay, we got you. I thought that team would have been Dallas. I thought the team would be Connecticut. Connecticut started out so hot, and now they've done nothing in weeks. So you need some team to step up and really, really challenge the Aces to make the league kind of push. As I welcome in Jason Corner from Brooklyn, New York. Jay, what's poppin', bro?
Not much. I had a little technical difficulties getting on, but I like how you're rocking the Mets jersey.
Hey, 4 games. I want to say something, but I know someone's listening and watching. I don't want to say what I want to say, but they know what I'm about to say. I'm digging the Midtown Manhattan background too, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm digging that. So the first 18 minutes of the show is dedicated to strictly WNBA. I talked about the media rights deal, $2.2 billion over 11 years, which equals out to $200 million every season. What were your thoughts when you first saw the number that was reported last week that's now official?
I thought, wow, they really are trying to get on the NFL level in terms of making sure we have 2, primetime players in NBC. Shout out to NBC for getting back their music, getting their logo song back. Mm-hmm. I was surprised Fox was able to do that, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to be good for the NBA. It's going to be great exposure going forward. I guess we're not going to need League Pass in 2 years. That's going to be a thing of the past because now there's going to be games on pretty much every night. Shout out to Dolan, who's the only one against it because now it dilutes the local market because now we're going to have games every night. But I thought it was a good deal. I thought it was a fair deal. I thought it was a good package. I didn't think TNT was going to get it back. I think for some reason the NBA's kind of moved off of TNT, and at the same time, TNT might have to rebrand themselves because no NFL, no football. They just got, MLB hockey every now and then. They might be probably trying to figure something else out. But
well, not to cut you off. Here's my question about that though, and I want to go back to the WNBA deal more so first because,
okay,
a friend of mine we were talking about this today, and he's like, well, obviously they're staying on ABC, ESPN. Mm-hmm. They're going to NBC. They're staying on Amazon for the Commissioner's Cup games and all that stuff.
Right.
And I think the future, and I think the NBA is kind of seeing it we want to go global. And the way to go global is to put the games on streaming.
Right.
Will having more games on Amazon affect the WNBA's growth? Because it seems like you're kind of putting those games out of reach of a lot of fans who I'm not either getting Amazon, I don't have Amazon, and I'm not getting it just to watch the WNBA.
I think it's something they got to work on. They definitely got to work. I think it's more so the problem with the WNBA is the time the games are on. So that's something they might have to adjust. But I think going with Amazon and ESPN and ABC is still a bigger leap for them. They'll be fine. I'm not sure if is NBC getting part of that deal or is just Amazon. So that it's a win-win. More exposure. We know next year's crop is going to be good. The crop after that's going to be good too. So there's going to be more talent coming in the league. I think the WNBA is in great shape as it is right now.
So I was saying before that I think the 2.2 billion was low, and I thought the 200 million seemed low, considering where they are, considering popularity, considering the number they just pulled out of their ass on a Saturday night. 3.4 million people watching the All-Star game. 200 million seems like. Could the NBA have gotten more for the WNBA going for 11 years?
I think, well, they could have, but I figured they grabbed what they first they could get. I mean, considering what the media deal was looking like before, not everyone knew about other networks that the games are on, and I think going forward it'll be fine, and they get to negotiate in a couple of years.
Yeah, they have an opt out after like 3 or 4 years, so they can talk about things. Going to the NBA, here's why I'm angry, and this goes back to the Amazon thing. Like, if my dad's a Yankee fan, and he hates the fact that they have games on Prime, and then random games like Apple, and then they had Peacock, and now Roku. It's a lot. So I get what the NBA. Yeah, I know what the NBA is trying to do. Get on Amazon. There's going to be a Monday night game on Peacock or doubleheader game on Peacock, only exclusively on Peacock, and that's it. TNT had the right to match, and they said, okay, we're not going to match ABC, ESPN because that's a lot of money. We're not going to match NBC because that's a lot of money. We will match the Amazon deal because they have Thursday nights, which is our thing anyway. So they had the ability to match. It was in their deal. They matched the deal, said we're matching. We got the money. And the NBA is like, no, we're good. We're going to go with Amazon. How will this hold up in court? Because I feel like if it's in the contract that, hey, you have the right to match it,
right? They
matched it. So how could you say no to a match that's in the contract for the network?
But that's what I think. I think they didn't want to do. They didn't really want to do dealing with the TNT going forward. But I think it's going to drag on in court for a while. I think probably the only solution. I don't know how you feel about this, but we see how the NBA channel does their they do how they do the coverage where they go in and out of games. I can see TNT doing something like that.
I mean, the problem with this is too, and I feel like I didn't realize how deep Warner Brothers Discovery TNT is. They pretty much run the NBA TV. They use their facilities in Atlanta. So TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery, is kind of in bed, is running NBA TV. So without the NBA on their portfolio, what happens to NBA TV? Which screws the league because you don't have a network. So they have to figure something out where it makes sense for everyone. I say just give them Thursdays.
But I think that's what they wanted. I think that's what they wanted.
And Amazon can have the in-season tournament and all that other dumb shit that no one really cares about. But we'll give you Thursday nights for this much money. And that's it. You get the Thursday night doubleheader like you've been doing for the last 30 years, and that is it. That's all you're getting. Leave us alone.
I thought that would have been the solution, but if they're gonna go nuclear, so be it. Well, I know Barkley said he's retiring, so like inside the NBA crew will probably look different after next year anyway. But I don't know if they're gonna try to. Other networks are gonna try to get the other guys, and I think NBC already said Mike Tirico is gonna be their lead broadcaster when they switch over to basketball coverage.
Tirico?
Yeah, they already announced that today.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. So as of now, if TNT lose their lawsuit or they don't come to an agreement, here's how the NBA on TV streaming is going to end up. Monday night, Peacock doubleheader on Mondays only. So Peacock only. Tuesday, NBC will air games on regional affiliates. So that'll be on random Tuesday nights on NBC. ESPN still doubleheaders. Thursday, Amazon. will have primetime games after the football season ends because you're not going to go head up with the NFL on Thursday nights.
All right.
Friday, Amazon will air double headers, and ESPN will do some as well. Saturday, ABC still has their primetime game on Saturday nights. Amazon sometimes in the afternoon. Sunday will be NBC primetime after Sunday Night Football. So it's going to be Sunday Night Basketball or Sunday Night Basketball in America or whatever the hell. NBC, 100 games a season, Disney, 80, Amazon will have 66. And listen, here's the old guy right here. Here's my dad, making it harder for older fans to follow the sport, and we're loyal fans.
But this is a lot of truth into that, because those who are not savvy, who wants to deal with all the apps and the streaming, we just want to watch. We just want to watch ball. We're kind of getting further and further away.
So I'm very curious about how this is going to end up for TNT because and TNT they got the French Open. Mm-hmm. I think they got the Mountain West Conference for football and basketball. They get a NASCAR. I feel like there's something else. I feel like they picked up something else recently. Big East basketball.
Big East. Oh, they getting Big East.
Yeah, they're getting Big East.
Okay.
Like them and Fox are still gonna go back and forth. So I feel like they're preparing the ground just in case they do lose the NBA. But True TV is gonna be is kind of slowly turning into a sports network. They want that to turn into a sports destination channel because God forbid you can only watch the Practical Jokers, 20 times a day.
Great show, by the way.
Can TNT survive, especially without the NBA? I feel like you can't go to cable carriers and go, okay, we want this much money for TNT on your cable lineup because you don't have this crown jewel of programming on your network.
You don't even have AEW on your network. So it's one of those things where I don't know. I think this might be the start to see the decline of TNT becoming Turner Classic.
Oh, jeez. Listen, they got to get AEW back. They got to give AEW whatever they want to stay with the network. TBS, TNT, that's what you need. Like Ted Turner back in the day with WCW. Got to keep the wrestling going.
You got to keep going, yep.
So it's big times to WNBA. They're on their Olympic break. And, leading into the Olympic break, you had the Liberty kind of running roughshod towards the end. They did have a weak schedule. I will preface that with that. They did have a weaker schedule toward down the stretch for a break. Connecticut Sun. What happened to them? Because that was the team that I was like, damn, they're undefeated and they're just running through people. And now they're just one of the other teams that's just kind of in the middle. And what happened to them? The straight question first before I go into detail. What happened to them?
I think after being exposed by the Liberty, they figured them out. And I think it could be a testament to the schedule too. They started off real strong, and then now they're still on the top tier, but they've come back to the pack now. Whereas the Aces are descending now; they're rising off of their, getting everybody back healthy. So I would say it's a lot of parity because I think the Sky could beat anybody on any given night. We know the Aces are still going to be there. Liberty's going to be there. I still have faith in the Suns. They're going to be hanging around. So the top half of the WNBA will be just fine. I think Connecticut will get back to solid grounding after the break is done.
So, and before the Olympic break, the Sun acquired Marina Mabrey from the Sky. Now, the Sky was, I think, a game and a half behind Indiana for the last playoff spot. They trade Mabrey, who's the best shooter. After they traded 2 first-round picks and a bunch of other players to get her to come in. So it seems like, Chicago's like, all right, we weren't supposed to be this good, this quick, and we're going to keep rebuilding. And Connecticut's like, we need shooting. We can't score outside of 15 feet. We need shooting.
Mm-hmm.
How big will Mabry be for that team, especially when, you watch Connecticut against Liberty, I think one of the few games before the break, Connecticut could not score for 5-6 minutes. How big is getting a shooter that can just knock it down from anywhere?
It's very big, especially a team like the Liberty that will love to jack up threes. You need shooting. You need shooting to compete with the Liberty. So I think that was the mindset for Connecticut going into that trade, and I think it'll be fine. I think at the end of the day, it's still Aces, Liberty, and I still put the Suns in the top 3 of the WNBA.
I'm glad you said that because the standings as of tonight, 21-4. The Liberty are at the top of the standings. Connecticut 18-6. Minnesota 17-8, who beat the Liberty in the Commissioner's Cup championship game. Seattle, out of nowhere, they're 4th, 17-8. The Aces sit at 5th, 16-8, 4.5 back at the Liberty. So they're surging. They were like 6-6, and now they kind of starting to figure it out, and they're getting really big names back, which is definitely helping them. The team I'm scared of is Phoenix, because I know Bruce always talks about how old Phoenix is, and Phoenix is an old team. Phoenix is not a spring chicken, but that experience they have with Griner and Taurasi, and they have some young players mixed in there that's learning, that under the learning tree, as Chris Jericho would say, of those two. Phoenix is one of those teams that if you get them in the first round of playoffs, they could beat you because of just their experience in big games.
Yeah, they're a tough matchup. They're like the equivalent of Miami Heat, where it's like you don't want to see them in the playoffs. You don't know what you're going to get. Those veteran players, I'm not going to call them old, but they are very playoff savvy, and they have rings under their belt. So I would not want to see them in the first round. And
there's Bruce.
Yeah,
what's up?
They are old.
I was waiting for it. What's up, Bruce? I want to talk about the bottom of the league, though. Dallas, worst record in WNBA, and then you have Washington and the Sparks right in front by just a little bit. Now, I know Paige Beckers will come out next year. I think she's got eligibility next year. She'll be drafted. I'm not sure if Juju Watkins from USC is coming out or not. I'm not sure what that situation is, but you can have a 1-2 of Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins. Let's say Juju's number 1 pick next year. Who would you want to play for if you're a rookie coming out? You have the Sparks, you have the Mystics, and you have Dallas. What team would you, as a number 1 draft pick, WNBA, starting your career, want to go to and kind of start that long rebuild of these 3 teams?
Oh, I would say, I'd say Dallas. I like Dallas.
Really?
I like Dallas. Cause I feel like you don't know what you're going to get. I feel like Dallas's rebuild is not as far. It's not as far as the Sparks or the Mystics. I feel like those are serious rebuilds. When you go to Dallas, you have a little bit of foundation going on, and you can build from there.
See, you would go to LA just for because it's LA and you play in crypto and blah blah blah. I do feel like, and we talked about this when the season started with LA, how they were that in between. They're rebuilding but not really rebuilding, and they're kind of like we got young players, but we got some experience too, and we can't say rebuild, but we're gonna rebuild, but we're gonna compete too. I feel like if LA doesn't figure out what they want to do in this offseason, they're stuck. Either you're going to blow it up and rebuild, or you say we're going to get players and compete. I feel like you can't be in between. Either you're rebuilding or you're going for the playoffs. I've never seen a team that can – the Yankees are trying to do that now. I feel the Yankees are like, well, we probably should blow this up and build around Aaron Judge and figure out these pieces bit by bit by bit. But we're going to kind of insert random people into the lineup and see if it works.
Right.
Either you're going to do it or not. And I feel like that's what the Sparks is right now. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
You can't. The worst place to be is not knowing what you're doing as a franchise.
And that is LA for you. So I want to talk about NBA Summer League, and obviously the name that everybody was talking about in Summer League was Bronny James. You were on the last show because you were hanging out with Spike Lee. So I'm saying you missed a show because you were Spike. But I went off and I said, they had the press conference saying that Bronny said he never thought about playing with his dad, which is horseshit. And JJ and Rob Pelinka is like, he's a player and we wanted him. And I'm like, okay, we'll see, because he's playing in Summer League. I'm going to tell you his full numbers, and I want you to tell me your first thought. Word association game. Let's do that. Okay. One word to describe Bronny's Summer League in 4 games played. 8 points a game, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. 14 of 40 from the field, 3 of 19 from 3-point range, 4 of 4 from the foul line. So that's pretty good. Word association. What's the first word you think of when I tell you this line?
Believe it or not, consistency. Those are the same. Those are the same numbers at USC. So he's very consistent. He showed us who he was before he got to the league, and he's being consistent. He'll give you 4.5 points a game. He'll give you 3 rebounds a game. He's being consistent.
I was not ready for consistent on this one. I was waiting for something else. I was shocked. I said word association.
It was either consistent or privilege, but it was either one of those two words. But I was going to go with consistent.
I prefer privileged.
Same number.
I prefer privileged. That's where I'm at. Privilege is the correct phrase for this man.
Now, my question to you is, does he make the opening day roster, or they stash him in the G League?
You got to stash him in the G League. You cannot bring him up. The only reason you bring him up on the main roster is literally to get on the court with his father to show everybody, oh, he's with his son, looks cool, the story, and then that's it. He's based on how he played in Summer League against, and once again, weakest draft in 30 years. And Summer League just got not all the draft picks play, none of the lottery picks really, really play. Let's be honest. I think a few of them play like 1 or 2 games and said, okay, I'm out, I'm going home. So you're playing against subpar talent, or talent just kind of scraped their way onto a training camp roster, and you still only put up 8 points. You still shot like garbage. Like you got like 5 steals. Okay, great. But what else is he doing? He put up 0. I think it's his second game. I'm like, you cannot justify bringing him up to the main roster right away. You got to put him in G League because he rep wise he's having close. He has to get the reps. If you put him on the Lakers, you're doing it literally just for the pictures to go on Associated Press and people to see it. And that's bullshit if you do it that way.
So you don't see no chance of him starting over D'Lo?
If they start that man over, as much as D'Angelo Russell is a pain in the ass, if they start him over D'Angelo Russell, I lose all faith in the Laker organization, and Jeannie Buss just needs to sell the team at that point because she has no idea what she's doing. If that's their end game, if that's their way to sell tickets after the Clippers going to open their arena, which is ridiculous, by the way.
Oh, did you see? I saw some video of folks. I guess they had like a fan fest, and it's open. It was open to the fans. Some guys are just doing some amazing tours. It looks amazing. It looks state of the art. Yeah.
The scoreboard itself is like, holy shit. Like, Steve Ballmer's not playing.
It's just, which reminds me, how do you open that arena and not keep Paul George and give him the money just to have an attraction? Like when the Nets moved to Barclays,
I'm so happy you went there. I'm so happy with it because we're transferring right into the rest of free agency because we did free agency, and I want to talk about some things that happened since you've been gone. Paul George said he felt disrespected by the first offer that they made. He wanted the exact deal that Kawhi Leonard got. He did not get that deal.
Should have got that deal.
That was my question to you. Should you have gotten the same deal, or were the Clippers smart in saying, listen, we're offering you this because, we don't know about you. We're taking a risk on Kawhi. We can't take a risk on you too. Was it both like, PG was smart to leave, but the Clippers were also smart to go, we can't just take a flyer on too many people on this team?
Normally, I'd have been like, if I wasn't open a state-of-the-art, probably the best arena in the league, and I have no attraction or I have a non-contender team, I would have been like, I might have not want to sign Paul George. But I think they probably look at the landscape of the West and like, you know what? We're not better than Denver. Here comes Dallas. Here comes Minnesota. Here comes New Orleans. I like the sneaky pick of New Orleans made with Murray. And it's just so much factors into it. I think they figured Paul George ain't really. He's 34 years old now, so they probably didn't want to take the flyer mile on him. With that said, I would have paid him just to have the attraction there of him, Kawhi, and Harden, just to bring fans in the building because you're still competing with the Lakers in terms of tension out there.
And speaking of the Clippers, they trade Russell Westbrook to Denver. It's a 3-team trade. So the Clippers send Westbrook to the Jazz, who are going to cut Westbrook, and he's going to join the Nuggets. The Clippers get Chris Dunn. I'm trying to see if anyone else is in this trade. That's really it. I think it's some draft picks floating around. what does Westbrook do for the Nuggets, considering the Nuggets have done nothing and lost another player from the championship team? So they're just losing players every single year. What does Westbrook do for Denver?
He gives them a solid, gives them another option, another point guard, pretty much, to play along with forget Jim Murray. But I don't think it moves the needle like how Caldwell Pope did or how Bruce Bowen did. So I do think this is part of that championship. They keep losing pieces. I don't know if Russell really moves the needle anymore, but I do think they got worse without Caldwell Pope.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you have a certain amount of time with Nikola Jokic because he's going to just stop playing basketball soon. I think he's getting to that point. He's like, all right, I won my championship. I'm going home. And
I think he's out in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So obviously your window is the set window that you have to win in. And it seems like they're just content, Stan Kroenke and the ownership, they're just content on having that one and going, we don't need to get another one. We got our one. We're good. Let's kind of keep it moving.
But I also think that's where the league is heading to. I think everyone's trying to get their one. And I haven't heard anything in Boston talking about the repeat. Milwaukee got their one. They haven't been nowhere close to being back to that. I just think this is where the league is headed now. Everybody's pushing their chips to try to get that one. I think the Knicks, I made a bet with somebody. I think the Knicks are definitely trying to get one in the next 3 to 4 years. So I think a lot of teams are just gunning for that one and not really thinking about championship, thinking about dynasties. I think the dynasty word is out the window in the NBA right now.
And speaking of the Knicks, this is what we missed while we're gone. Jalen Brunson took a $113 million pay cut to stay with the Knicks. They added Cal Bridges. Campaign is on the team. Tibbs got an extension today. How big was that move that Brunson made to take that deal to go, I don't care about the money. I'm trying to win. Let's get it.
I wouldn't say I was shocked, but it's definitely Brunson's team. If it was no indication before that this is Brunson's team, this is his city, he got his boys all here, his pops works for the team. Clearly, you know how Miami has that heat culture? I think the Knicks are becoming like a mafia where everyone's doing their part, make sure the family's good. So I think Brunson clearly sees the writing on the wall. I wish they would have given an extension before. Maybe we would have got Hartenstein back. But I think it works out for them. They have the championship window. They have their legit championship window. They can still figure out what they want to do with Randall, see how he meshes in the early part of the season. If not, they can move him. He's still a valuable asset. I think the Knicks window looks fine. I think everything's good. Brunson's never paying for another meal in the city again.
Oh, no.
He's one championship away from eclipsing Eli Manning.
So everyone's like, oh, he took less money. I'm like, I don't think he was, like you said, you weren't surprised. He's not about the money. I think he found a place where he feels comfortable. He's home. Mm-hmm. He's with his
playing with his boys.
Mm-hmm. He loves Tibbs. There's an interview with Taylor Rooks. He's like, I love Tibbs, and Tibbs is he thinks Tibbs is kind of misunderstood, and he said it goes back to when Derrick Rose got hurt, and the narrative of like Tibbs runs his players to the ground, and I think the same thing. So I can't really talk shit about that because I think the same thing. I think Tibbs plays his guys too much, but he says Tibbs just comes to work every day, first thing in the morning, and you get pissed at him, but you still like, yes, Tibbs. They know what to expect. You said mafia. That's what Tibbs has a gang around him. Tibbs has his guys. He's like, all right, go out there. You know what to do. Like, there's been so many times where I've watched Tibbs, and you remember Phil Jackson when he coached. Phil Jackson really never said much.
Nope.
Tibbs yells at the refs, but is he giving like in-depth like signals and discuss? He like go out there. Yeah, you run a team. Okay, cool. He's happy. They're happy. You have a team. I still think you trade Randall because I think Randall's a detriment, and he's going to mess up the flow you have. I think
they move him.
I think you got to think about it. It's a consideration you have to make. Like you just right now not now because his value is kind of low because of the injury. But if he comes back and puts up 22, 23 a game and grabs 12 rebounds. What could you flip him for? And obviously, he's got to be another. You got to get another 4. It has to be a big 4, and names have to match. So if you trade Randall, you got to get a player on the same level as Randall. Don't trade him for Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, you better get a name. So I think that might be the next step that they make too. But I'm of the mind. I'm like, we got 3 years to win one. And I think that's the window we have. We have 3 years before we gotta start paying guys. Guys' contract expires. And 3 years, and then you gotta get in and out.
It's a good window. Hey, listen, from when we first started the show to now, we're in the end game now. It's championship window. We are in Infinity War. We're almost at the end game, but we're in Infinity.
It feels like it took forever.
But we're here.
We've been doing this show for like 7 years. Wait, what? 7 years? 8 years we've been doing this show? And I feel like the first 5 has been miserable.
Oh God!
And we tried not to talk Knicks every single week, and now we're like, now we got to have a conversation. Thank God.
We got a conversation.
In college basketball news, I want to. There's a settlement about the antitrust thing that the NCAA has to pay, and different teams have to pay. I worked at a sports writing camp for kids. I spoke to Dave Popkin, who does Seton Hall basketball on the radio and TV broadcasts and MSG, stuff like that. And he talked about how, a lot of conversation has been about how the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, SEC has to pay these antitrust settlements to players. But what no one's talking about is how the smaller conferences like the NEC, the A10, they got to pay as well. And they got to pay, $5-6 million a year for up to 10 years to pay some of this back and put their share in. My question to you is this: I know we've had this conversation before. How close are we to getting a Power 2? And let's say SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC says, you know what? Enough that let's just merge, cut out the NCAA, cut out the middleman, and we'll do our own thing. Basketball, football, field hockey, whatever. And we'll have our own little thing, and everybody else will just be left out. I think we're getting to that point because the sins of the big conferences are starting to trickle down to the smaller conferences.
I think we're probably going to get that. And it's weird that I'm saying this, but I think it's going to take Florida State and Clemson to leave the ACC, or maybe even a Duke or North Carolina, but one of those, maybe 2 of those 4. So when we're going to be like, just going to make 2 big power conferences. It's going to come down to like MLB, NFL, NBA, East and West. I just think that's where we're heading right now, because I feel horrible for the small schools because they have no shot at recruiting, at NIL money. They have no shot at any of that. So it's one of those things where, like, I think we're about 3 years out. The money's there, and the way it's going now, realignment, rivalries, everything is changing anyway. So you might as well roll with the tide.
Yeah, I feel like you have, and the ACC commissioner I think they had their football media day this week, and he came out and said
he came out smoking.
Yeah, he said we're not giving in. Like, Florida State and Clemson signed this deal, they're stuck here. Now, I don't think they'll get past that. I think once Florida State and Clemson said, "Oh, ACC network, this okay, cool, we'll sign dotted line," they're locked in. I think it depends on what they figure out in Discovery concerning the certain deals. I think it's going to affect other conferences too. Even like Colorado went to the Big 12. BYU went to the Big 12. I'm trying to think who else. UCLA, USC went to the Big 10. I think this is going to open the books on all those transactions and all those deals and see what happens. SMU gets no money from the ACC for 9 years. How the hell does that work?
How did that happen?
They get no media money. They get no touch. They touch nothing for 9 years to make that move. How do you convince a major not major, but how do you convince a major sporting program to go, you cannot get any TV money? Rutgers got like 10% for a couple of years when they moved to the Big 10. SMU gets nothing. So I think the deeper you go into how these deals kind of happen, how the Pac-12 just blew up, now it's the Pac-2. I think that's when you get close to that idea of like, let's just do our own thing. And like the NCAA can handle, Eastern Illinois. We'll just do it on our end.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling how that happened, how all those moving parts are happening. But we're going to see this year, and especially in football and basketball, how that Big Ten is going to tell a lot. because the whole idea of Oregon and UCLA and USC, all over there in the Big Ten, it doesn't make any sense to me. But we'll see what the ratings say.
Well, there was a story in ESPN about Stanford and Cal, and they're in the ACC, and how Stanford, literally, their equipment truck would have to leave Palo Alto on Monday to be there by Thursday or Friday to set everything up, set the locker rooms up, set the sidelines up.
It's crazy.
And I think they're playing in the East Coast 2 weeks in a row. So the equipment truck is literally staying on the East Coast. The players are flying back to California to come back again because they can't miss first week of school because, it's Stanford and they care about education. And back and forth, like, geographically, none of this makes sense. I get the money idea. I get the whole idea of, like, this is for money and I understand that. But this is going to be a cluster. Maybe not this year because they'll give them like some leeway, but next year, when teams are going to have to go play Hawaii and then go to Duke and then go play in California and then go up to Syracuse and play at Syracuse, it's going to be a shit show. And I'm waiting for a coach to come out and say, and no one's really said it. If you notice, no coach has really come out and said, none of this makes sense. I'm waiting for a coach to go, this is bullshit. Why are we doing this? This is crazy. These guys are not going to class. We're on planes most of the week. Yep. So how's this working? How is Stanford, who is the Yale of the West, going to keep their GPAs at 4.0s when they're on planes 4 days a week? It makes no sense.
A lot of homework on the planes. Instead of taking naps, you got to do homework.
And those schools, like I think Duke beat Clemson last year, and the Duke quarterback asked his professor on TV for an extension of the paper, and the professor said, no, we're still doing Friday. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, all right. So that's what they do over there.
If he didn't do it on the air, I think he would have got that extension because then now the professor has to protect the integrity.
Real quick, I want to talk two things. NCAA football. What are your thoughts so far?
It's an amazing game. Trying to recruit and rebuild with Rutgers is becoming a challenge, but I'm welcoming that challenge. But it's good to have the game back after all these years without it.
Yeah, I told my buddies, I'm like, I've seen some wonky shit in that game, but I'm like, I'll give them a pass this year. Next year, I better not see the same wonky shit next year in the game. Like, make sure it's fixed. The other thing, and Bruce said it, and I don't understand why he's still saying this. There is a report that AEW did come to agreement with Warner Brothers Discovery to stay on Turner. They're saying the agreement's done in principle and that AEW is going to get a substantial raise in rights fees, meaning that for the first time when this deal comes through, they're saying hopefully by All In, the Britain show in August. If the deal's done, they will be financially in the black. For the first time ever. So I'm looking forward to that deal. We talk about the NBA and rights deals and WNBA. If AEW gets this extension, they're saying it can be upwards of like $175 million a year. That's a game changer because you're set. They're not going to cancel you. The ratings have been great, but TNT, TBS is like, it's either you or we show Bruce Almighty. We'll go with you.
Exactly.
And they get those ratings. So I'm curious to see what this means because that's more money coming in and that's more, hey. And now it's that Tony Khan's figured it out where he has a lot of different people working now, writing and helping him. Yeah. So the shows are starting to make more sense and you start to see longer term shit like Triple H does sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm bullish on it because I was down on AEW for a few months. And now it seems like, okay, he started listening to other people and realized, okay, he's not the smartest guy in the room anymore.
Well, it's good. That's what he needed to do. And the product, the wrestling wise, we never had a problem with it. Wrestling wise, it's still top tier. It's just the little things they had to fix, and I think now they're working on that. And he's probably going to add some more writers. And I think not being in a deficit is only going to make the product better.
Yeah, and WWE, I will say the Punk McIntyre stuff. I feel like I'm tired of it.
That's the best feud of the year so far.
It is, but I feel like it's taking long. I know Punk was injured, so they had to stretch it out because he got hurt.
They had to stretch it out, yeah.
But now it's okay. Let's get to the match. Now it's time. And now they're saying it could be a 2-3 match series. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, you know Seth is going to screw Punk the first match.
Yeah.
So then it's probably going to be a 3 series, and then eventually we get Seth and Punk at some point. But I'm more concerned about Gunther. I want to see what are we taking the title off of Damian and we're crowning Gunther.
The whole SummerSlam card, it doesn't. I'm not excited about it because everything seems very predictable. Gunther wins, Nia Jax wins, Cody's going to retain.
Dom turning on Rhea.
Yeah, that's going to happen. So there's nothing really in like this. All the storylines seem very predictive. The only thing I'm thinking about is, do you bring Roman back now? Or do you wait another month? I think
I think if you're gonna go bloodline at War Games in November, you got to start rolling the dice on that now. Bring him back now, and then slowly figure out what you're gonna do with Jay. Like, I feel like Jay's a single wrestler now. Like, do you cool him off to reunite him with his brother and get him involved in that? And
he's kind of just there. He's just like, okay, like, what are we doing? Nothing for you this week, Jay. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'll be in the back, just hanging out, just chilling. But I mean, I will say NXT's got interesting, but I don't watch it enough to really care as much. I think Ethan Page being champion is a little weird. The Joe Hendry plays in my house constantly now because my kids love Joe Hendry. So I play that song at least 3 times a day now. So it's gonna be interesting to see kind of how that works out. But SummerSlam, something has to happen between now and next Saturday to kind of like pique my interest. Because right now I'm just like, so-and-so's gonna win, so-and-so's gonna win, and that's the end of it.
How do you feel about the idea of 2 things real quick? One, this is the last SummerSlam where it's one night. Next year they start the 2-night fiasco. And 2, have you heard about the idea they want to bring mid-card titles to the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown? So we're eventually going to get the Intercontinental and the U.S. Championship.
That's a good idea because I feel like if you're not in the title picture, you're kind of just there, and you're kind of just like, oh, cool, I'm going to wrestle this match against Tamina. That means nothing. Like, who cares? The 2-night SummerSlam, why? Like, why? Like, why are we doing this? WrestleMania is a different monster. Exactly. Right. WrestleMania is a different monster. It should be 2 days. It's an extravaganza. That's how it was billed for years. SummerSlam? Like, okay. Biggest party of summer. Who cares? Like, save the major things for WrestleMania. That's where you want to do 2 days. That's where you want to blow it all out. SummerSlam's I think their number 2 show. I get it.
It's the number 2, yeah.
But do we need 2 days of wrestling? Do we need 2 days of wrestling at all? Like, I'm okay with just having one night of wrestling.
I would say this. The 2 WrestleMania nights this year actually made sense piling on story-wise. I don't know how you do that going forward. I think that one unique story last year or this past WrestleMania made it interesting for 2 nights. I don't know how you do it going forward, especially for SummerSlam.
Well, plus 2, you run the risk of having a bad night 1 and people going, I don't care about night 2. Mm-hmm. You do 2 nights and your first night is garbage. Like,
it's usually the other way around.
Yeah, not the Hollywood, not the Zayn Owens Mania, the one before that. Yeah. I think that was the one where night 1 was like, ugh. And people kind of like, I don't know about night 2. And a lot of people might not watch night 2. I think that people like, I'll watch the replay or something. I think that's the risk you run sometimes when you run 2 nights. Night 1 could be a complete bomb, and people like don't really give a shit about night 2.
But night 2, yep.
What's the capital SummerSlam? Jay, as always, great show, man.
Likewise.
So, our boy Bruce, who's in the chat, just popping shit. Per usual. Bruce is going to have his own show to pop shit on. It's called Armchairing. It is going to premiere after Labor Day in September. We're getting that together. So Bruce is going to have his show here on the YouTube channel, a panel show about sports. So I'm very pumped about that. Armchairing starts after Labor Day. So he's going to be here spreading his propaganda to the masses. I would not participate in that show, but I'm very happy about that. And whatever shows we come up with, I don't know. We're still trying to figure out this page. The other guy, Thomas, he's no longer in America, so we got to figure that one out too.
Oh, damn.
He's back in Ireland. So figure out how that's going to work too. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back probably the week after. I'm going on vacation on Saturday. I'm going to be gone next week. I need a break.
Oh, nice.
So I'll be
Enjoy.
I'll be in Cape Cod chilling. So I'll be gone next week. So our next show will probably be the week after. We'll keep you posted on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit like. We'll let you know there. For Jason, I'm Kahlil. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace.
Peace.
This has been The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Cordner. Subscribe now for the best tri-state area basketball talk.